Hello, everybody, and welcome to the
Mhm.
Common Theory, a new competitive Pauper EDH podcast. I am Dallas, also known as Puzzlebot, and I am joined with my co-host, Chris. Want to introduce yourself a bit, Chris?
Of course, of course. Better known as Gatorbait TV, right? Like that's how most of the people in the community know me. And yeah, pleasure to be here. I'm very excited for what we have to do. I mean, we have a lot of great topics for today, so can't wait to get to it.
Certainly. So today we are starting by just going over who we are, what we do in the community, introducing ourselves to you guys a bit. Do you want to kick us off with that, Chris? Go right ahead.
Of, of course, my man. Of course. So I have to start with So I have to say, I kind of like one of the guys of the community. I'm straight to the point. I like getting the job done. I want the game to end, right? With the goal of this format ending up at an F&M, I try to just, you know, point A to point B fastest way possible. And with that, that leads me to say I'm kind of the guy that has spearheaded the format to an aggro point here recently. Two of the decks that I've kind of been that person for was Dargo Kedis and Gut Leader. And I'm very happy with the end results that they've put up and everything like that, but that's kind of like who I am. I like just getting the job done, being as efficient as possible, and, getting the job done and taken care of.
For sure.
And what about you, Dallas? We got to know. Like, what about yourself? Tell us. Tell us. Very interested.
Well, as the name Puzzle Box might imply to some people, I do love a good combo deck. I love putting the pieces together, figuring that out. I love the pieces of the puzzle. Great card. Um, I am known more.
That is a good card. That
It
is a
is a
good
good
card.
card.
I got to give it to you. It's a good card.
Probably the deck that I'm most known for at this point is Gretchen, which is a Simic combo deck. I was able to take down a $100 CEDH budget tournament with my Pauper version of Gretchen, so that deck got a decent amount of popularity. I also love Curiosity, one of my favorite cards. I just love finding those pieces, putting them together, and finding that combo for the win.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with a lot of your play styles over the years, puzzles that I've known you. One of my favorite, just a quick little caveat on that is I've seen very few people over time be able to rewind their own spell to continue to combo off, which I really appreciate that being an older Magic player and, you know, being around the game for so long and seeing those interactions. It's, gives me that like euphoria of, oh, I love it. So,
It was definitely a pretty fun game. Yeah, for those who don't know, Rewind is a counter spell that untaps multiple lands, and in Gretchen, where you have land enchantments, you can use those kind of effects as rituals. So,
correct,
one of the
correct.
first games I was playing that, I cast Rewind on my own spell just to untap lands, and it was a good time.
It was. Well, that's kind of about who we are, right? Like, that's who we are for the gist of it. If anybody would like to ask us any questions, by all means, ask away, and we will definitely get back to you in the comment section. But excluding that, I'd like to bring up our next little topic of discussion. And we're going to be doing this throughout all of the podcasts. We're going to pick a deck of the week that we like, that we enjoy, or we've seen, and we've kind of like just been very impressed with over time and things of that nature, and like what the deck can produce and things of that nature. And I will be the first one being able to do this puzzle, and let's kind of go from here. I'd like to introduce this deck. Great Desert Prospector. I cannot. How about this one? Can I sell you on this deck? How much do you know about this deck? I sent you the Mox Field on this deck. Give me your 2 cents so I could sell you on this deck. I need to do that for you.
Yeah, sure. So for those of you who are not aware, Great Desert Prospector is a 5 mana 4 and a white pip for a mono white commander, 3/2 Human Artificer. And whenever he enters the battlefield, he creates a tapped Power Stone token for each other creature you control. And Power Stones are artifacts that tap to add a colorless, but that mana cannot be spent to cast a non-artifact spell. So that restriction is interesting because you can cast artifacts, but additionally it gives you the ability to get a lot of mana for activated abilities. And that seems to be the goal of this deck. It is mono white, so you are restricted a bit in terms of your card selection options. But the commander definitely has potential to create a lot of mana for your activated abilities. And the deck is on 43 creatures, which is a very high count, so I do like that. And it's on some flicker effects, not very many pieces of actual artifact ramp. So it doesn't ramp up to the 5 mana commander as much as you might expect it to. So it looks like a fairly solid list. So why don't you go ahead and sell me on this, Chris?
All right, man. All right, Dallas. I'm 100% sure I could sell you on this list. It's too easy, right? I have so many cards in this list that can impress you by accident. We have Soul Warden and Soul's Attendant. For those who don't know what those are, they're just kind of like these. They're called the Soul Sisters of the format. It's a 1 mana 1/1. When another creature enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. That is it. Simple, easy. If aggro is prevalent in the format, you want these. They're going to play creatures, they're going to gain you life. You're going to play your creatures, you're going to gain life. Easy peasy. Not even a big deal, right? But you're going to have, like, this is a mono white deck, and throughout like Magic's history, mono white's kind of always been like on the back burner, right? But this is Pauper, CPDH, right? We have mono white, and I gotta tell you, this is not like I'm pretty excited for this, right? Like I have so many words and not enough words to explain this deck. I'm just super pumped to be able to speak about this because I've had the privilege to work with a certain individual by the name of Lotad. He's the creator of this deck. He has been the main pilot of it and everything like that. And I gotta tell you, great young individual, great player, doing the deed, very focused on the deck as a whole, and doesn't want to put it down. And I have to commend them on that because the potential this deck has shown and is going to give the format as a whole, it's insane. So I want to go with the payoffs, right? This deck has so many payoffs. So it has 4 identical creatures. I'll hit you with one. It's called Seagate Banneret. It's a 1 mana 1/2. It has pay 5. 1 white mana and 4 generic. Creatures you control get +1/+1 till end of turn. That seems absurd. It's 5 mana, right? I have played against this deck. I have seen said individual pay 20 mana into this. That's insane to me. 20 mana? That's absurd. They were able to pump this that many times, and that is because of the commander. These Power Stones are insane. This is the first deck in Pauper as a whole that has been effectively and efficiently use these rebels, and that's the next thing I got to bring up. Rebels are dear to my heart. I'm an older Magic player, as you know, Dallas, and these rebels are adorable to me. They're okay. This is not the proper terminology, but in theory, right? They are bad, but they're not here, right? And this is part of the point that we are trying to make, right? Not all cards are bad, not all cards are good. Some cards belong here, some cards belong there, right? And these rebels belong here. The payoff with the Power Stones you could pump into these rebels. So for a little bit of back history on these, so we have, I'm going to use this one as the example. We have Defiant Falcon. It's a 2 mana, 1/1 rebel bird. It has flying, and you pay 4 mana for generic, tap it. Search your library for a rebel card with converted mana cost 3 or less. Put that card into play, then shuffle your library. All of these rebels have these awkward activated abilities to where they search the lower mana cost, search up, and the higher mana cost, search down. That's insane. And it doesn't even sound insane. Like, it's kind of like, okay, what are you doing with that? Right? Okay. I get that. Now, let me hit you with this one. We have tribal auras. Like, how is this not, like, already, like, sounding great, right? Like, we have Bound in Silence. If you're worried about a Dargo, we have Bound in Silence. Bound in Silence is a rebel tribal enchantment. 3 mana, enchant creature. Enchanted creature cannot attack or block. That's it. Short text, easy peasy, to the point. You got the job done. Dargo's not attacking. The end. So that's not much of a sell, is it? It's just sweet. It's simple. I love it. And with the amount of mana that you will receive from these Power Stones, you need the payoffs. This deck is the whole package. It has equipment. It has living weapons. It has... I mean... all right, Dallas, I have to say, I don't want to go on too much of a rant about this deck and how amazing I think this deck is, because I could talk about this deck the entire time. But I would like to say we're going to put this deck down in the notes and so people could check this out. But I love this deck. Any questions, I know the person that is playing this deck is more than willing to speak with anyone about it, tell them why they've chosen certain cards, and go from there. But with that, what do you think about what I've already told you? Because if you need me to sell you more, I could do it. Just ask and you shall receive. Because give me a situation and we can make it happen with this deck. Like, that's how insane I think this deck is.
So, the main thing that I'm not sold on for this deck is the speed factor, right? You've got a 5-mana commander, you don't have much to ramp up to it. It's going to take a while for the deck to actually get somewhere, right?
I agree. She's not the fastest or sharpest knife, but that doesn't mean it can't end a game. And the biggest issue that a lot of decks have in the format as a whole is ending the game. This deck will end a game. With the payoffs that I've already given you, +1/+1, pumping 20 mana is not. That is 100% realistic with a deck like this. And even so, it's a rough street with this deck, right? When you look at this deck as a whole, you're going to say, this is a weird pile of cards. And I think that's what makes this deck so good. Because without knowing what these cards do, you don't know how synergistic these cards are. From all the way to the protection package, we have cards like Cloud Shift. Cards like Cloud Shift in a deck like this are proactive instead of reactive. So you're able to blink out, not your commander, you're able to blink out anything to protect your stuff. And worst case scenario, you're protecting your commander, but you just let him go. But if you blink your commander, you know what we're doing here? We're pumping out 20, 30 mana, and we're just producing creature after creature after creature, and then the payoffs are insane. For instance, there's Dawn Glare Invoker. This card sees no play, but in a deck like this, it's a 3-mana 2/1 Flying Core Wizard that says pay 8 colorless, not tap it, just 8 colorless, tap all creatures target player controls. This deck can effectively lock out a deck that is trying to attack them. I have been against this deck, and by turn 7, this card has been in play, and it has locked me out from attacking. The end. It doesn't look like that on the surface. This is a force to be reckoned with. It's amazing. And I'm not overhyping it. We're still learning a few little knickknacks here and there with this list, but I am letting you know, when you sit down across from this deck, you're going to wonder why it's doing and playing these weird, awkward creatures, and then you're going to go, got it. You can end the game quickly too, because a 1/1 turns into a 5/5, and if you have 4 1/1s that turn into 5/5s, the game is ending very quickly.
Yeah, I think Rebels are really cool. I've actually been looking for a deck to play Rebels in for like a year now, because I think Rebels are really cool, Rebels and Mercenaries, and I've been looking for a reason to play them, so I might have to give this a test. The one
you won't be let down. You won't be let down. I promise. You won't be let down.
The one effect that I'm a little uncertain on not including are cards like Energy Refractor that allow you to just pay 2 mana to add 1 mana of any color to help filter some of that Power Stone mana, as well as Energy Refractor also just being a cantrip.
I get that. So, from what we have learned with the way the deck has been built and what the deck is doing, you call me crazy with this one. You don't need it. It doesn't need that. It needs the payoffs. The deck had an issue with having so much mana and nothing to do with it. Even casting the spells, because it's mono white. Remember, we are mono white. We're not drawing 50 cards a turn. But that doesn't mean we don't have the most adorable interactions. Which, I'll hit you with one that we have actually been through. And one of them, which, well, I absolutely love here, is we were playing a game, and we were playing Aegis Automaton. So, for those that don't know this card, Aegis Automaton, let me actually look that up for everybody. It is a 2 colorless, let me pull that up right now. A 2-mana 0/3 artifact construct. Pay 4 generic and 1 white. Return another target creature you control to its owner's hand. We got into this like weird long game to where like everybody was killing everybody's creatures, and this card ended up just kind of hosing us, which is, sure, you're going to bring back the Power Stones, but you can't cast the creatures with the Power Stones. You can't really do a lot of things with those, right? It's you walk this like weird line of, okay, sure, you have a billion Power Stones, but you can't cast stuff. But he ended up having this awkward line of Thraben Inspector and Clue tokens. And for those who don't know Thraben Inspector, it's a 1-mana 1/2 human soldier. When it enters the battlefield, investigate. Which investigate is put a colorless Clue token onto the battlefield with pay 2, sacrifice this artifact, draw a card. That doesn't sound very impressive, I know. But locking out the board state because of the situation, which there's so much more context there that I'm not going to be able to give everybody without doing a whole video about this deck. Like I said, this deck is awesome. But it was able to effectively bounce and protect and create an army of clues to just net positive and just lock us out of the game. Which I know doesn't sound very exciting on the surface, but if the whole situation was truly said, everything would make more sense. So this is one of those decks that's so intricate and so, like, the fibers have been woven so tight. It's amazing. It is an amazing list, and very much kudos again to Lotad for being able to pilot this deck and with how intricate this deck really is.
Yeah, I definitely look forward to seeing it sometime.
But with that, I'd like to move us on to the next topic. So let's get to our main section, Puzzle, or Dallas, I should say. I'm so used to calling you Puzzle, man.
I
like
get it,
man. It is what it is. So, how we pick our cards. I think this is going to be a great way for you guys to know who we are and kind of like get into our brains and kind of pick at why we think of certain things and why we even select a card for our decks as a whole. So, which brings us to our first topic. And our first topic is going to be efficiency versus effectiveness. And I'm very excited for this. For, I hate to say it like this, very obvious reasons. I am the efficiency guy. I want my stuff to be efficient. I want it to be effective. Granted, that's one little thing down the road, but I need efficiency, right? Like some of the curves in my deck, like my Gut Leader deck, nothing is past 3 mana. There's not a single card in the deck that's 4 mana. So and no, we don't count the Hippogriff for the record, guys, and we'll get to that later. Just quick caveat, it's a 1 mana card. But straight line, get me to the finish line. This is what we're doing. But sometimes people don't see eye to eye on these things, and we have some pretty good examples. And Puzzle, I'd like to start with you, and I'd like to bring up our first 2 efficiency versus effectiveness card choices. And a lot of people don't really look at these cards in the format as a whole, and I think these are really 2 amazing cards to bring up as a whole. And we're going to use Flame Slash, and we're going to use Heated Debate. And Flame Slash is a 1 mana sorcery. Flame Slash deals 4 damage to target creature. Sorcery speed.
For 1
Simple.
red.
1 mana. Yep. Efficient. 1 red. Boom. Done. Over with. Keep it going. Heated Debate. 3 mana. 2 colorless. 1 red. This spell can't be countered. Instant speed. Heated Debate deals 4 damage to target creature or player. Which one are you playing? Like, let me get in that brain of yours. Like, tell me why we're doing this. Like, is one just better, or is one just worse, or are they the same? Or like, help me out here. Help me out, Dallas.
Well,
I'm gonna keep switching back from Puzzle to Dallas, so you know. I gotta make this happen.
That's fine, Gator. I mean, Chris. So between Heated Debate and Flame Slash, personally.
Oh, wait, we're having a heated debate?
Yeah, we're having a heated debate about Heated Debate.
Oh,
welcome to Strixhaven, baby. Personally, I have played Heated Debate in a fair number of my decks, but I have never managed to keep Flame Slash in more than 1 deck, I don't think.
Oof. That's rough.
I really like Flame Slash. I want to play it. And, you know, the efficiency of the 1 mana cost is very good. But personally, I find the instant speed effect and non-counterable text on Heated Debate to be so important, even though it costs 3 times as much mana, right? It is nowhere near as efficient in terms of its mana cost. But it is very, very good at guaranteeing you can remove that combo piece. no matter how many counter spells that blue player is holding, right?
So you're going on the effectiveness side then. Like you don't need it to be efficient. You need it to be effective. You need it to do what it needs to get done, quote unquote, no matter the cost, right? Like
Yeah,
if it now that's kind of untrue, right? Because if this was 10 mana, we're not going there,
yeah,
right? But
obviously. There's a limit.
yeah, there's a limitation, right? But I mean, 3 times still sounds relatively
Yeah,
absurd
no.
in a sense,
The
right?
difference between
Like
1 mana and 3 mana is
it's
so
pretty wild.
vast.
But I mean, I have to agree with you because even as the guy that I'm playing Days, right? I'm that guy. I'm
You're
playing
that guy.
Thunderclap.
You do
I,
play
I
all the free spells.
I play all the free spells, but I have to agree with you. Like I want to argue against it, but I can't. I also am here with you. Heated debate.
I think I've played Flame Slash in
Yeah.
one mono red deck, and it's
Yep.
so hard to slot in. That sorcery speed is so rough.
Yeah, it can't be countered is so powerful in our format because of the the blue, right? Like it is what it is, and that kind of leads us to our next card, our next 2 cards, which I really love the comparison between these because all of like the cards we're showing here are all kind of the same, which is really awkward. They're just different mana cost, or they have like 1 extra clause, which is kind of strange to me. But they do the same thing, to a sense, to a sense, of course. But let's move on to the next 2, which will be Preordain. So for those who don't know Preordain, 1 blue, sorcery speed, scry 2, then draw a card. Simple, sweet, to the point. This is this card to me. This brings back the old Legacy days. I am all about this card. No ifs, ands, or buts. This is going to be a hard leap for me. I hope you realize that, Dallas. This is a hard leap for me. So now we're moving to the next one. Behold the Multiverse. Hard leap for me. I'm sorry. 4 mana, 3 generic, 1 blue. Instant speed. Scry 2, then draw 2 cards. But it has, during your turn, you may pay 2 colorless mana and exile this card from your hand face down. Cast it on a later turn for its foretell cost, which the foretell cost is 1 generic and 1 blue. So in theory, you could kind of get away with paying 2 1 turn and then paying 2 the next turn. But it is instant speed. So you can kind of do it whenever you want, but can you sell me on this? I'm just playing Preordained. Why would I ever want Behold the Multiverse here? I'm kind of going to go on the efficiency side this time instead of the effectiveness side. I'm just kind of, I don't know what we're doing here.
Yeah, so typically I will agree. I do like Preordain over Behold the Multiverse in most decks. However, there still can be a case made for Behold the Multiverse in decks that, one, are already running Preordain, because we have, no duplicate. So, effectively, this is another bigger brother of Preordain in some situations, right? In decks where you're generating a lot of mana, in some of those big blue decks that we've seen in the past, so on and so forth, sometimes just guaranteeing that extra card is worth the extra mana, especially with the foretell cost and such on the card. But in general, you'll see some of those big mana decks like to play some of the bigger draw spells instead of the cantrips, or in addition to these cantrips, just because they know that they're going to have that much more mana that they can sacrifice some of that efficiency to improve the quality of their cards.
I could get behind that. Quality is it's becoming more relevant. I mean, that's kind of what I was trying to sell you on with the mono white deck, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
I get it. I get it. I don't disagree. But if I'm in blue, I'm playing Preordained 2, though.
I'm also playing Preordained first.
I'm also
right?
playing Preordained 2, right? That's kind of what we're doing. But kind of jumping to our next subject there, Dallas, like I have to hit you with this one because I have to throw this out there real quick. All of our topics today will tie into one another, which I think is so fantastic about what we're doing here with describing this short little topic that we have going today. And it's going to be great. And with that versatility, and with what you were talking about, having a second copy of this card gives you a little bit more versatility. And I'm loving that. I'm loving that. It's great. But let's kind of let's hit on one of the cards that me and you were discussing before this. And I think this is kind of more on you, you know, being the Gretchen player here. Return to Nature. So can you lead us off with this one? Versatile. Like, it is this card? I mean, well, I don't know. Help me with this one.
Sure. So, Return to Nature is a 2-mana instant, 1 in a green, and it has choose one, destroy target artifact, destroy target enchantment, or exile a card from a graveyard. So, this spell is interesting because it is versatile in some degree, right? Like, it obviously has some versatility. It has 3 different modes. However, to some extent, it's also not extremely versatile because those 3 modes are removal, and Grave Hate. So really, it's only doing removal or Grave Hate. Now, being able to remove artifacts or enchantments is very strong, and at the 2-mana slot, it is still pretty efficient. So, when I see this card, I like to think of it as removal for an artifact or enchantment. That's what I'm playing it for. But it has that added versatility of, if somebody is trying to combo off using their Ghostly Flicker in their graveyard, or something of that sort, I have the additional option of being able to deal with that.
All right. The way you phrased that, I was getting ready. I had everything in my head to be like, nah. That's not. This is not graveyard hate, because I have been told many times that this is graveyard hate, and it's not. It's gonna pop one card, and you're gonna be lucky if you got the right card. But the way you phrased it, if I'm playing this and I need to destroy an enchantment or I need to destroy an artifact, because I know the format's full of these 2 cards, and I might accidentally beat the graveyard deck if they try to combo off and they need the 1 card. I like that. I am for that. The extra added bonus of that sells me on it.
Yeah,
I'm all about those kind of cards.
It's definitely important to acknowledge the limited versatility of some cards too, right? Like, you're not playing this card as Grave Hate, like you're saying. Like, one time, hit 1 card at 2 mana? Are you really gonna play that instead of playing a dedicated Grave Hate card? Or a better modal Grave Hate card? Like, not really. So, you've got to take that into consideration when you're trying to call a card versatile as well.
Yep, I completely agree. But the way you said it, I'll give it to you. I may accidentally get that graveyard, and I like that. That is what I like to hear. That is the way I would also look at the spell. So you sold me on that. But now I have one for you. And I think you have one for me after this one. But this one's also for you. I got to throw this one at you. Crypt Swamp. Why this is a versatile card? Like, why? It's a 3-mana removal. So for you guys to know what this card is, it's a 2 generic, 1 white tribal instant shapeshifter. It's a changeling, which makes it a tribal instant. So it's every creature type. And it says, exile target creature. Its controller creates a 1/1 colorless shapeshifter creature token with changeling. Why is this versatile? Help me out here. What are we doing with this?
Well, this card is very interesting because its versatility comes from its card type more frequently than anything. Because this is a changeling tribal spell, which means this card has every creature type attached to it. Which means anything that lets us tutor for a mirror, for example, with the new mirror tutor card. Can't remember the name of that one. Or a rebel, or a mercenary, or a wizard. Wizard cycling can find this card. So the versatility comes in being able to tutor this card, and it does still have some fringe application, albeit very fringe, with the fact that the token it creates being a changeling. For example, if you're playing a Malcolm deck that has white for who knows what reason, the changeling token is a pirate if for some reason you need it. Hopefully that never comes up, but maybe.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of way out there in right field.
Yeah, no, that was out there.
I see where you're going with this. I'm kind of about it because I'm a fiend with playing that with Goblin Matron, which is a 2 generic and red creature, which when it enters the battlefield, search your library for a Goblin card and put it into your hand. So it's one of the true tutors of the format. And yeah, this card's bonkers, right? Like, I mean, I don't know how you kind of argue against this card as a whole. It's
3 mana.
I mean, sure.
Not very efficient, Chris.
Oh, but it's effective at what it
yes,
does.
It is.
Exile target creature. I mean, that is just insane. And a quick little tidbit. It's Mere Kinsmith is the card we were talking about. It is a 4 mana 3/1 artifact creature mirror. And when it enters the battlefield, you search your library for a mirror card and reveal it. So that can also tutor for Crib Swap. So, I mean, there are some great tutors in the format for that card, which gives you that versatility, which is what we're trying to do, right? Like, yeah, you're not wrong, guy. You're not wrong.
Well, let's move on to the next card. A card that is very near and dear to my heart. That some people argue is not a good card, but I think this card is amazing. Let's talk about Dispel. Very simple. 1 blue mana for an instant that counters target instant spell.
I gotta interrupt you here. That is essentially the definition of not being versatile, right? Like, is that not what we're doing here? This is supposed to be about versatility, and you hit me with a card that says counter target instant spell. What are we doing here? What are we doing? Dispel? Really? This is where we're at now? Yeah, help me out here. Help me out. What are we doing?
What do you mean? This card counters any instant. That sounds pretty versatile. One of the most common card types in the format. Any instant. For 1 mana.
Okay, alright, help me out here. Why is this versatile to you, though? Let's be realistic. Because from my exact statement, it's not. Right? It's instant for instant. But what does it really do, though?
So, typically when you're playing Spell, right? You're going to be in a combo deck. And the fact of the matter is that, no, the card's not very versatile, right? It states very specifically what it can do. Mm-hmm. What this does in combo decks is it counters counter spells. And that is basically the sole reason that you're playing this card. So yeah, it's just not a versatile spell. That doesn't make it a bad spell, though. In these turbo combo decks, countering a counter spell is very important.
But it could also counter a removal spell, right?
Yep, it also counters removal, hard draw sometimes, if it comes down to it. So it has its versatility. But typically, you're playing it to protect yourself, is why people play this card, right?
Yep, I agree. I agree. So it kind of falls back into our efficiency versus effectiveness too, right?
Yep.
Because it sounds like this is I mean it could even counter opposing combos, right? Like ghostly flicker and stuff like that. So it sounds like it is kind of versatile.
Yeah, it hits Ghostly Flicker. It hits some combo pieces, some
okay.
very specific combo pieces. It hits some very specific draw
But,
spells.
but you need to be a very specific deck for this then.
Exactly. Yeah, you do not want to play
Okay.
this in your mid-range deck where you want all your cards to be great cards that are working in basically every scenario, right?
That's where this card was kind of tripping me up. But like through your explanation, I'm kind of seeing why you would play this, right? Because if you're starting to lose card advantage, you could counter their card advantage spell. You could counter the kill spell. You could stop somebody from countering or comboing off, right? So yeah, you are stopping many things, which is kind of strange. But I think that kind of falls back to the format as a whole, right? Which is once you learn the format a little more, you'll learn cards like this have this versatility.
Yep. But still, obviously, nowhere near as first counterspell, right? So there's some
Yeah,
give
of
and take
course.
there. But anyways, let's go on to a card that I know you are personally a pretty big fan of. Let's talk about Dawn Charm. Why don't you tell me about some of the versatility of this card?
Well, this won't be a hard sell to you, as you know. Or I don't even think this will be a hard
I
sell
don't
to the
know.
audience.
Maybe
Let's
I
be
think this
honest here,
card's
guys.
garbage.
I sure. You need to protect your commander, protect the queen. So let's start with what Dawn Charm is as a whole. One colorless, one white, instant speed. Choose one. Prevent all combat damage that will be dealt this turn, or regenerate target creature, or counter target spell that targets you.
Counterspell in white?
Yeah. The last mode is quote unquote the worst mode on this card. I will tell you, that is what people say it is the worst mode. I have countered a lightning bolt with this card. It doesn't come up too often, but when you're right at the end of you're right there at that nail biting part of the game, and you counter the lightning bolt, you will be happy this was in your hand. And if we're protect the queen or we're just need to have our guy on the field, we're regenerating target creature. And if aggro is prevalent, it's a fog. This card does anything you need it to do in its color. It's white, it's support, and it's supporting your game plan to the max. It is the standard, in my opinion, for a card that is versatile. It does everything you need it to do. It's on one side of the spectrum all the way to the other. And I love that Wizards does cards like this. This card's amazing to me.
I think that's an interesting. I just thought of this, but Dawn Charm does everything under the sun in terms of the protection modality, right? As you were saying, it doesn't do much in terms of like proactively interacting with combo pieces or any of that stuff. So it doesn't have versatility on that scale as much. But kind of the same as like with Return to Nature, right? Like it's versatile in the removal section, or versatile in this slot of the deck.
Oh yeah. 100%. But that's kind of where we fall into our next subject, which was a great, segue into that there. Dallas, thank you for that one. Our methodology and why we play certain cards and why we're playing Return to Nature and why we're playing Dawn Charm. Because we've built our deck to succeed with this card called Dawn Charm, with this card called Return to Nature. So we actually abuse these factors that these cards have and we're able to like push them to their limits, which makes them just absolutely bonkers and absolutely amazing. And let's start off with you. Tell me, what methods do you have? Like, hit me with it. Let me know. I'm pumped to hear this.
Sure. So, similar to with the topic of modality in a single card as to what it can do, you also have to take into consideration modality of cards in the deck. So, for example, I'm just going to go back to Gretchen because I always will. We play a lot of land enchantments. Auras. So, for example, Utopia Sprawl. 1 green for an aura enchantment that enchants a forest, and when it enters the battlefield, choose a color. And then whenever that enchanted forest is tapped for mana, its controller adds an additional 1 mana of the chosen color. So, in a way, this is just a 1 mana piece of ramp, just like a Llanowar Elves, or any other 1 mana dork that taps to add mana. However, because of how the deck is built, we're also playing land untappers that can tap to untap a land, such as Arbor Elf, which is 1 green for a 1/1 that taps to untap a forest. So when combined with these land enchantments, you get the bonus of those land enchantments not only being ramp in and of themselves, but they get extra benefits because you get to use them multiple times in a turn whenever you're untapping that land.
So, are you saying this is you're using these cards for their versatility in your deck and for how effective they are in your deck? Is this what we're getting to now?
Kind of wrapping it up here, you know?
Kind of throwing everything all together? I like it. I like it. Okay.
You'll notice that both the cards I brought up for that deck are 1 mana because they're very, very efficient. They're cards you're able to use 1 mana. They enable the deck to win on turn 2. Actually, both of those cards combined along turn 3.
I like it. I like it. I mean, I can definitely get behind that. Like, that is what we're trying to do here, right? Like, take cards that are kind of like to the standard eye, kind of mediocre at best, and then pushing them to the extreme limit and truly showing the power that they can have. So, do you have any other examples for me, or at least let me keep picking the brain of what you have going on right now?
Sure. So, another example for the kind of general cards that you might talk about here are counter spells. What are the counter spells in your deck used for, right? So, in Gretchen, the counter spells that I'm playing are greedy counter spells. They're for me. I don't want to have to use them to stop someone else from comboing. Obviously, I will if I have to, but I would really like to not do that, and instead use those counter spells proactively to ensure that I am able to combo off on my turn and prevent other people from interacting and stopping my combo. Whereas maybe a more controlling deck wants to be actively playing those counter spells for the sole intent of stopping that big value play from the mid-range player, or stopping the combo from happening in the first place. And they're not using them for the same reason, even though it's the exact same card, right?
Yep. I could get behind that. I could definitely get behind that. It makes total sense.
What about you? You got any methodology you want to talk?
I don't have much, man. Like, that was kind of like, you wrapped it up pretty well there. I don't think I have much to say about it. Like, that was pretty spot on. You know, I could talk a little bit about certain decks here and there, but I really like how you ended it there, and it was, it makes a lot of sense. You know, we don't have to go too far down that rabbit hole, right? And I think that is kind of the endpoint for us today. Dallas, thank you so much. I really appreciate being on here with you. And, we have so much more to come, you guys. And I really hope you guys stick around with us. And we have a lot to come. We have a lot and lots of lots. I cannot emphasize on that enough. We're going to be doing a deck of the week between everything every single week. And definitely hit us with decks you guys like. Maybe something we'll be able to check it out. Maybe do a test game with you guys so we could really be truly enthusiastic about certain decks and certain play styles and certain play patterns. It really helps us out to being able to explain the deck properly and card choices and whatnot. Not everything is clear cut and popper, which I think is another selling point about the format as a whole, but that's a whole nother video that we'll be getting into here in the future. So with that, I think we could just close out here. And yeah.
Thank you guys for watching. If you have any other topics or anything like that you want us to discuss, be sure to leave them down below and we'll take a look and definitely try to get those in the show at some point.